This is Stroke Camp. For 3 days and 2 nights, this extraordinary camping experience offers stroke survivors and the people who live with them a weekend away from their everyday routine. Stroke Camp is the one wonderfully safe place to gather with people who really get you, whether you're the survivor or the caregiver. It can be an emotional weekend, it can be a challenge, but it's rejuvenating, it's empowering, and it's really fun. No two campers are identical. Their strokes, their stories, their difficulties, their paths of recovery, all unique.
You are among survivors and caregivers who experience the same kind of things you do. I can't say enough.
And every stroke is different, but there's just this bond. And we're like instant friends, like family.
Yeah.
And everyone just lets you be yourself, and you can be yourself.
When I arrived yesterday, I felt like I was home. I felt like I finally was around people who knew what I was talking about, that I could be understood, that it's no longer, I no longer need to hide, and I no longer need to feel ashamed.
But stroke survivors and their caregivers understand completely the physical and emotional struggles that each other faces every day.
I think that he thought that when he got home everything would be fine, and that's probably common. And of course, he didn't come home the same person that he left.
Retreat and Refresh Stroke Camp was started in 2004 by Marilee and John Nunley, 3 years after John's stroke. Ardent lifelong campers, Marilee envisioned a camping retreat that combined socialization, relaxation, education, great food, emotional support, and fun for everybody.
The idea of Stroke Camp was kind of born out of life's experiences and then the personal experiences. John suffered a massive stroke in 2001. A few years after John's stroke, when he was well on his way to recovery, we had the idea of doing a camp for our local friends that have had strokes. We have discovered, quite by accident, that there aren't a lot of stroke services for long-term stroke survivors that have survived and pretty much maxed out at therapy and rehab and all of those things.
I love coming to the different camps that I go and see them, and a lot of those come back the next year, and we have a lot of fun, and everybody, once they get going with the camps, they just start having all kinds of fun. To me, that's worth a bunch of words that I can't talk very good. But I think that's one of the best things we can have, is helping these other people that have had strokes.
Since 2004, over 20 camps have been held in multiple locations around the country. The goal is for 25 camps to be held annually in 25 places nationwide. Activities of every sort fill the precious days of Stroke Camp. Each and every one focuses on the 4 core values of Stroke Camp: education, support, relaxation, and socialization. Music is a core activity at camp. It's one of the neurological peculiarities of a stroke that many survivors who have difficulty speaking or cannot speak at all can sing.
Jim really has significant aphasia, so he has no real speech, but he can sing. And the joy of being with a music therapist at camp is so much fun.
While caregivers take a little time for themselves, volunteers partner with survivors to ensure their safety and companionship. Volunteers come from a variety of backgrounds. Often they are medically trained and work with stroke survivors professionally.
I've been a volunteer at camp since probably the beginning of camp, and I started because I felt that I needed to come. And I didn't really know what to expect about camp. I've camped all my life. But when I got here and saw all of this, it was such an inspiration to me that I forgot that I was here to do a job.
And once I went to camp, I was sold. It truly is a life-changing experience, not just for the stroke survivors and the caregivers, but for nurses, therapists, anybody from the community who can really see, the sense of community that stroke survivors have with each other.
It's a great opportunity for healthcare workers that have some experience with stroke patients to come here as volunteers and understand better the needs of these patients and the needs of their families. And I think this is a wonderful way to improve our patient care.
Hospitals save lives, and that's their initial role, but I think we also have an obligation because we've increased our technology and our abilities to save those lives, to give them a life back.
Not all volunteers have medical backgrounds. Some are individuals with a special heart for helping. Some are survivors themselves who've found that camp helped them transition into life's new normal.
Stroke survivors take time to listen to another stroke survivor, and you don't feel hurried. You feel almost normal.
It's a new normal for us.
Yeah.
Volunteers, and most come back year after year, will tell you that Stroke Camp gives them a desire to do even more for stroke survivors and their families. They report that they received much more at Stroke Camp than they ever gave.
They call it volunteerism, but it's the best paying job I've ever had.
Volunteering at Stroke Camp gives you an opportunity to know that you're spending your time and energy making a difference in someone else's life.
It's lots of fun. It's a joy. It's just the opportunity to meet some really, really cool people, play games, have fun, get to know new people. It's just tremendous rewarding to volunteer and come to camp.
Just from working with stroke patients at the hospital, we always see them right after the stroke, try to get them up and moving, and then from there they move into either rehab, so they leave us, and we never get to see what happens months and maybe a year later. So this is great to be able to participate and see what happens or how they're doing several months or even a year later.
Whether you're in the medical profession or not, whether you are or whether you have had a family member who's been affected by such an episode, I think that the knowledge that you can obtain and the help that you can provide is unmeasurable, and it's a win-win. It's a good experience.
I see my patients and then I send them away, and I'm like, oh, what happens to them? Where are they going? How is their life going to turn out? And here it's interesting because you can see people a few years down the road, they're back in the community, they're not receiving therapy anymore. It's just them in their home, and it's a very real situation. So
yeah, I think as a healthcare professional, we try to. We're basically the people who hand off the care of the patient to the caregiver, family members, whoever. And I don't think we get to see the other side of the story. We know that it's going to be tough, but it was really, I think I would really recommend it to a lot of healthcare professionals to come see what now the patients and families have to deal with now that they're home, and the challenges they face. And I think it's good to know that there are groups out here that can support stroke survivors as well as their caregivers.
No one needs a weekend to refresh or to treat more than a committed caregiver, the person most responsible for a stroke survivor's well-being, 24/7, 365 days a year.
Reflected on our life, I thought about what we should do, and I just plain relaxed. I felt this freedom, no responsibilities.
Often caregivers join together in breakout sessions where they can share their experiences and emotions with others.
I screamed, that stroke camp can't come early enough. I wish it was today. I was at that point where I had no sympathy.
First off, I want to thank you all, because this is probably the most fun I've had in 2.5 years, just listening to everybody else complain. I am not allowed to complain. You're not alone.
Stroke Camp helps caregivers to redefine what normal is, with camaraderie between people who share the same path.
What was so wonderful was to be together with other people who had had strokes and other caregivers. We learn more from one another than we would ever learn from doctors and therapists who haven't lived 24 hours together with these sort of ailments.
There's a camaraderie just because we've all had strokes. We're all a part of the same community. Even though no two strokes are alike, we're still something that we can be ourselves with each other and not have to worry about anybody looking at us funny or judging us, and just kind of be a fun thing and meet new people.
For me, as a caregiver, probably the most important thing is the sharing, which has already been mentioned, of experiences with other caregivers. The breakout groups are very valuable. I think you pick up a lot of different hints and tricks and so forth that will help you as a caregiver. That's one of the probably the more important things that we do, or that we get here at the camp.
Campers leave with a sense of accomplishment, with determination to take on new challenges and grab onto opportunities.
I've said a lot. I'm sad a lot. I am crying a lot. And then the people in the stroke camp want to be my friend. Yeah, he wants to be my friend. And it's hopeful. It's hopeful. The stroke camp is hopeful. I can do it now. I can do it now. Yeah. Thank you all for being my friends.
And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was at home.
It was the first time since my stroke that I felt normal. The camp makes you feel normal.
When I had my stroke, I could not talk at all, and now, as you can see, that I'm able to talk better, and I think that I'm able to stand up and talk to people about that now. So I hope people should know that you're going to get better. That's the main thing. You want to get better, and I think that's what they do too.
Many return to the camp they love and help give first-time campers, the newbies, much-needed encouragement and support. They leave with friendships that enrich their lives long after camp is over. They leave for home with a determination to try new things, to participate and re-engage in life, and they leave with a reservation for next year's camp.
Instant friends, like family.
Yeah.
I felt like I was home.
We're all a part of the same community.
The friends?
Good friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
friends.
Good friends.
Friends, friends.